Good evening, and thank you for joining the Voice of Many podcast with your host, Yolanda, and co host, Vanessa. This evening, we have the pleasure of having with us Miss Emily Dick. Emily is an expert. She is an activist, and she is committed to making girls feel comfortable in their own skin. In her book, Positive Body Positive, is a guide to loving your body. And that is something that's hard for a lot of women to do, is to love their body, love the skin that they're in, and to build that self-confidence from not just what we're told from everyone said, oh, you look pretty, you're attractive, but knowing within who we are and knowing that we should really feel good about ourselves and not have that negative complex. So here to share with us on body image and self-love is Miss Emily Dick. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. Because like I say, your topic, what you do, what you're standing for, what you're fighting for, what you've been an advocate for is so important to every woman, every young lady that's out there, every teenager, and every mom that's raising a daughter right about now. It's really important. And so, can you tell us what is body image?
So body image really is the mental picture of how we see our bodies, but also the way we feel about our bodies. So it's almost like the idea of how you think others see you.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, um, how do you say it? When you say how others see us, we have to think too about how we see the media, how we portray what we see projected from the media. And we had started talking about that. So how is the media really promoting this? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The media is a huge proponent in how we feel about our bodies. It's one of the central ways that we learn about what women should look like, how we should behave, how should we appear. And now with social media as well, anyone can participate really in spreading these beauty standards, modifying images to appeal to this ideal body, this ideal beauty that we've come to learn, and that ideal beauty has changed over time, but there are a few things that it really has stayed consistent with, and one of that being is that thin waist. And anyone can edit things and spread messages about dieting and striving for beauty at all costs, and the result from that is so damaging mentally, but also physically for so many.
It's true. Like we were talking about the photoshopping. It's not good.
No.
For some of our viewers and listeners, what would you say body positivity and body neutrality are?
So body positivity really is this idea that all bodies are good bodies, that they're beautiful, that they're worthy of love, respect. And then body neutrality is sort of an in-between place, really. It's a starting point for someone who doesn't want to be dissatisfied with what their body does, and they can recognize that their body is great at its functions and things like that, without the pressure of really loving your body. So it's sort of an in-between place. It's a stepping stone. To me, even body positivity, like no one loves their body 100% of the time, even when you are body positive. So it's really whatever term really works for you and in your journey of learning to really accept your body, more for what it is than what we're told we need to look like and feel like.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, with everything in the media and that we see in magazines, how do we promote a healthy body image and self-esteem, especially for our children?
It is so tricky in this day and age, but there are several things that we can do for both ourselves, but also our children. One of the things I like to promote is focusing on non-physical achievements. So writing down, whether it's writing down a list or when you're giving compliments to your child, using those non-physical characteristics to boost their self-esteem. You're smart, you're kind. Those are the things that we need to remind ourselves are more important. We don't get our worth from the way we look. Our worth comes from the type of person we are. So really focusing on those attributes is really, really important. I think the other thing is really getting away from this diet culture, connecting more with an intuitive eating method, which is really listening to what your body needs. Because studies show the more we restrict, the more we diet, we actually end up overeating, binging. It creates way more damage. Eating disorders arise out of it. So really just having a healthy relationship with food. Like there's no morality with any food. There's no bad, there's no good foods. There's just all foods. A bunch of all foods is really best. And then I think really having these conversations about stereotypes in the media, being honest with them, having those conversations, even with yourself, realizing what images really trigger you when you're on social media. So teaching them, but also doing it yourself to really detox your own social media accounts and make sure that you're following people that make you feel good about yourself, that aren't promoting diet culture 24/7, because that you're going to internalize that, and that's going to affect how you feel about your body. And I think really, the other thing too is we can't feel guilty for playing into the media. We love, we all have social media. It's a great tool. It keeps us connected. We love to watch movies. We read magazines, all those things. We shouldn't feel guilty for consuming that type of popular culture, but we should also be critical of what we see and understand and be able to say, like, this is promoting a certain type of beauty standard, but I'm enjoying this article, or maybe I'm not going to read this one. Just being aware and knowing that you have the power and you have a voice, so you can use it. You can write letters to the editors. You can speak out that you want to see unedited bodies in advertising campaigns, whatever you want. You have more power than you think.
Well, it's talking about images and writing. What led you to write your book, Body Positive? And you did something even different, which I have not heard of in quite a while. You actually used the images of real women's bodies in your book.
Yeah. So really what inspired me to write the book was, I've always struggled with body image issues like every other woman out there. But when I went to university, I started to learn about sort of the theories behind why we have these body image issues, how it relates to the media, pop culture, specifically the male gaze theory, which is this idea that women feel like they're objects on display. And they actually begin to self-survey, watch what they're doing, even when no one's around, because that's so internalized by us that we have to appear perfect to other people all the time. So the more I sort of dug under and discovered some of these layers, I was like, people need to know this stuff, like at a young age. Like I would have loved to know this. It gave me such validation, just understanding how these systems are set up and how they work. So I really wanted to make that information accessible. And that really inspired me to write the book. And then the other part of it for me was, while creating this piece of, introduction to body image and sharing, some different responses from women I interviewed, but I also thought it would be nice to have a piece of media that makes us feel good. And I wanted everyone to open the book and really feel someone that made them feel represented, that they could go, oh, my body looks like that, I have rolls, I have stretch marks, and that we're not just, these perfect people, and we're not isolated. Like we're all going through things, even though our experiences are very different. We do have something in common, and let's come together and recognize that.
Right. And it's also important that we be more, how you say it? We be more aware of the things that we say, because
Yes.
perception is one part of it. But once you get to the verbal tends to stay with you forever. So we have to be conscious of what we say and how we say it when we say it, because our little ones, as young as elementary school, they're listening. They're that sponge that's taking in everything that's being said. Where whenever we say something to a child, well, you're getting a little chunky, or your face is getting fuller, they take that as, okay, well, I must not look good. I must be
Mhm.
fat. I'm gaining weight. Oh no. And so we're saying things to them, and it's really staying in their minds because of them being sponges. So we want to be aware of the perception that we give our kids and that we're giving each other, not just face to face, but all over. We just need to really be cautious of what
We
we're
really,
saying.
absolutely. And we really need to even challenge our own internalized biases.
Mhm.
We are a very fat phobic society, and, you know, we don't even realize that we're spreading this information to people that fat is a bad thing. Fat is just an adjective. It is just a characteristic. It does not make anyone any different. There are no diseases out there that affect only fat people. Like the problem, is that diet companies use that as their excuse to
Yeah,
sell their products.
that's true.
And they fund half the surveys that are out there,
Mhm.
that present these statistics as fat as being something that's damaging or unhealthy. And really, they're not looking at the real reasons why, maybe some of these statistics exist, which is fat phobia, because doctors aren't treating fat people equally to thin people and things like that. Those are the real issues at heart here. It's not
Mhm.
so much that fatness is causing issues.
Right.
So I think really being aware of our own biases and thinking before we think, like I always like the statement, our first thought is what we're taught to think or socially conditioned to think. And our second thought is really what we're choosing to believe. So it's really taking that second to have that second thought and go, really, like, why am I thinking this way? Or why am I
Yeah.
saying this way?
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to our kids, because those little comments, they will really, 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 like you said, take to heart.
Yeah.
And it could be, they're aware, that maybe they're chubby and stuff like that. Our bodies are always going to ebb
Yeah.
and flow, and they don't need to think that that's a bad thing. So
It's all a part of growing up.
yes.
Your body's going to change, you
I
know?
think too, for some people, if they don't think it's such a big issue, they should look at the fact that they have started changing Barbie dolls to now
Yes.
Barbie dolls that we used to have as being super skinny. Now they have a mixture of curvy and skinny
Mhm.
Barbie dolls. And then now, too, our mannequins are actually starting now to be plus size mannequins as well. So I'm like, if they're changing the industry and even the modeling industry, making them gain some weight as well,
Mhm.
why doesn't the rest of society realize that, it's unrealistic? We can't keep doing this anymore.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
doesn't
And we're
work.
demanding it, right? We're the ones who are
Yeah.
making these changes because we don't want to buy our kids the stereotypical skinny Barbies that we all
Mhm.
grew up with, right? We want our kids to have options. We don't want them to face the same issues that we have faced,
Mhm.
really.
Yes.
And it just shows you the power that we can have. It's baby steps, and sometimes it feels like we're light years away from from real change, but then you see some of these examples and you're like, wow, like differences can be made. So we got to keep going.
Yeah. And if we would take time, instead of for every negative thing we say something positive, something
Yes.
inspirational, something motivational, to our kids, to our women, that would make such a difference, because our bodies are one thing, but the mind, once you grasp that mind, that power, you can change everything else, the perception, the health, the outlook. It controls, it's all controlled by your mind from what you see. It's
Yeah, and
what you see, what you
people
hear,
don't
what you taste.
exactly, and people don't realize that health is not just the way you look. Health, first of all, health is not visible, but health has to include everything. Like you said, the mind is a really, really important aspect of what I think is health.
So true. So true. So how can we practice self-love?
I think by practicing different forms of self-care, whether it's, like you said, using positive affirmations to make ourselves feel good, reframing some of the negative thoughts that we have, but also really caring for our bodies in a way that makes us feel good, and to everyone, I always say that looks so different. Self-care, to someone might be a bubble bath, for another person it's going out dancing, whatever makes you feel good mentally, physically, is what you need to do to show your body, to show yourself that you are giving it love.
That's true. That's very true. So, and one more thing I want to throw in. So how can those listening and watching get a copy of your book and follow you and get more information?
Absolutely. So you can get my book, Body Positive, A Guide to Loving Your Body, anywhere that sells books, basically. And you can visit my website, happydaughter.com. There's all kinds of links for the book there as well. And you can follow me on Instagram at realhappydaughter. Say hello. I always love when you guys pop up in the DMs and stuff. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you, Emily, so much for joining us and telling us about your story, and also hopefully encouraging some of our watchers and listeners to partake more so into body positivity as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us and being able to shed light on an issue that is not just small, it's very huge, and it impacts us not just temporary but forever, because that little saying, that thought stays in the back of your mind. If we could get more positive instead of the negative things that linger back there, life would be so much better.
I agree. Let's do it.
For those of you who are watching and listening, please don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as we don't want you to miss out on any of our great guests or great topics. We want to thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.